Today, let's break down the FOMC countdown because this week could be huge for the markets. And of course, it all centers around one thing. That's Iran. We'll break it down for you guys. Before we get started, I want to thank our sponsor, and that is iTrust Capital, where you guys can get into your own crypto IRA. Very easy to set up over there. You can buy and sell crypto all within your IRA. You can also get into gold, silver as well. Transferring an IRA, easy to do as well. Do it now. Get it going. Open a crypto IRA using our link. It's going to give you a $100 funding reward just to get started. Let's go into it today. There's a lot happening. Of course, it is now FOMC week, and you've got Kevin Warsh at the helm now. This is going to be different because, as Mohammed was talking about this earlier, he said being in that meeting is going to be interesting because you've got a past chair, you've got what could be dissenting governors, and you have a new guy coming in that many people would say is the mouthpiece for Trump. So the real question is how does he play the market? If you just look at where some people think this will go, consider this of how and what the market has done post these Fed chairs. So when Jerome Powell became the new Fed chair in 2018, the SPY crashed 5 or almost 4. Kevin Warsh, the new Fed chair on May 15th now. And the real question is, does history repeat itself? Do we see an average max drawdown under the new Fed chair? I don't know. I'm interested because there are so many factors playing into not only this week, but just in general of how the market is responding to the Iranian deal, what's happening with the S&P 500, obviously with SpaceX IPO, what's going on in the risk markets, and you have, of course, inflation and fuel prices all centered around this. So data is going to be a big factor going into his decision. Markets bet the Fed will hike. And of course, this is looking at over time. When you consider this, though, on the near term right now, it is pretty much a flat line. And whether or not we're going to even get any hikes right now, currently 0 basis points is the winner on poly market. Does not look like we're going to see that. And if you look at the rate hike probability right now going all the way into December, that is also falling now down below 40%, holding at 36 right now. Down from a considerable high, too. That was at 61% on June 7th. So just, 10 days ago, we were at that kind of scenario. This is all, of course, starting to lay into the market. Bitcoin trading at around 66 to 67. We've got SpaceX absolutely just going berserk like a rocket, literally on the charts. And you've got this coming in, which is going to be the FOMC meeting. And remember, since September, we've had 6 FOMC decisions. After every single one of them, Bitcoin dumped 10% within days. Doesn't mean it held it there, but those are usually what we have seen in terms of reaction in the market. Bitcoin moves, you know what happens to altcoins. I want to go to a clip real quick, and this will get into what to watch for. This is Jikh breaking it down.
First, pay attention to Kevin Warsh's language around inflation. If he says the word transitory or anything like it, that means he's suggesting that inflation from the Iran war is temporary and it'll go away on its own. And that would be what's called a dovish signal, right? The markets will like that and they'll most likely go up. If he sounds concerned about inflation being persistent, then that's hawkish. Markets will not like that. They will most likely go down. Second thing to look out for is watch whether he mentions the bond market specifically. If he says stress in the treasury market or hints that the Fed has tools to support the bond market, that's him signaling to us that the money printer is warming up. A QE will happen if it needs to happen. If he says that or some version of that, then gold and Bitcoin will go up almost right away.
So when you listen to Andre there, and he is right, I mean, what he's dealing with here is kind of a rock and a hard place. And to this point right here, global bond yields are crashing. You've got the US 10-year dropping 4.68 to 4.42. This is the last 30 days. That is a large drop for a bond move. And then the 20-year also falling from 5.2 down to 4.9. So Japan is even moving harder. So remember, the Japanese 10-year yield is down 8.9% in 27 days. The 20-year has dropped 9.5%. So these are all very significant because he is right. When bond yields fall, it means bond prices are raising, which is money is flowing into bonds across both U.S. and the Japanese market at the same time. If you look at lower long-term yields, it's going to reduce borrowing costs for governments. And the real question is, where is interest rates going to fall? In this next clip, Jikh looks at Warsh's master plan because there's a lot playing into this right now. And back to his point, if it's transitory, yes, part-time. No worry about inflation. If it's something they think is going to be sticking around longer, that is more damage to the market for sure, especially because what we have seen in the S&P 500, which is no slowdown in terms of overall market value. Take a look at Andre's next clip.
Specifically, the plan is to remove the capital requirements that limit how many treasury bonds banks are allowed to hold. Now, when COVID hit in 2020, for example, the Fed temporarily exempted treasuries from the SLR calculation for about a year. And then exactly what Luke Gromen predicted happened. Banks instantly piled their money into treasuries, and the bond market started to function very smoothly. But then, when the exemption ended and expired in March 2021, banks had to lower their treasury holdings, and the bond markets did not like that. So Kevin Warsh's plan is essentially to make that COVID exemption permanent. And that's because there's really only two paths forward. Path one, he signals that looser policy is coming. Maybe he says, the Fed will step in to support the bond market if things get worse. If he says that, the markets will read that as liquidity incoming, aka money printer will be turned on, and historically when that happens, gold goes up, stocks go up, right? Bitcoin goes up, risk assets in general all go up. But only if the Iran situation resolves soon. Because without that, all we have is higher and higher gas prices, aka higher inflation, and that makes it really hard for him to say he's going to lower rates.
Yeah, and I think to his point is that Warsh is walking a very razor-thin line here, mainly because the data that typically the Fed is dealing with usually comes in prior to. Remember, FOMC is happening tomorrow on Wednesday, but yet on Friday, we look like we're getting an Iranian deal, and you have a lot of people in the mix right now. And the reason this is important, does Trump feed Warsh a little bit of data about what this Iranian deal is going to look like that would give him a little bit of a precursor to making a decision here at this meeting that's happening literally today? Or does he have to pause and hold that line until there's a little bit more public positioning here from the White House? And of course, as he said, as Andre said, it does depend on Iran. This is probably the biggest deal, I think, maybe in the history of the United States, because it has so much bearing in terms of the U.S. economy because it's so tied to energy. I want to go to this clip because this is a former Trump advisor saying maybe this deal may not be so good. Take a look.
I agree with that. If it was good news, it would have been leaked. We'd all know about it. Donald Trump would stay around to sign and pass out pens. The fact that he is getting out of town does not bode well. Anyone with any shred of political sense knows that, you know, politicians and cameras go hand in glove, right? So if this was something good and going to be, you know, of global significance, Donald Trump would be there. I think that this is to be viewed very skeptically. I do not trust the Iranians.
All right, so this is a former White House advisor, and whether you believe him or not, I think the body language is kind of the thing he's getting at, is how do these people react being in D.C. And if we were getting a closer deal to what's going on in Iran, I think he's right. I think you'd have victory laps going around D.C. right now. This concerns me a little bit. Does that mean that maybe the deal is continuing negotiation and they kind of give you a fluff answer on Friday? Remember, all this stuff always happens on Friday. We talk about it all the time. It helps avoid these situations where you get so much coverage on it. It kind of buries the lead, as they say. And I want to go further into this because the question will be, if it doesn't happen on Friday, how long down the pipe are we going to have to wait for normality? Take a look.
It was extremely challenging to get to this ceasefire. Maintaining it is going to be even more challenging. Let's say the ceasefire, it works as planned on Friday. It would be probably by the end of the year, you could even begin to talk about a resumption to normality. Yeah. And the idea, though, is you'd have that flush of the 60 million barrels that are caught inside come out. Maybe it's 60 plus million barrels. And if you're drawing on average 6 million barrels per day right now, that means you would cover 6 days or 10 days of inventory draws. After that, you still have the other problem. So before we can answer anything, you got to answer, how do you get the ships to want to go back into the Gulf? We have not answered that problem yet. So again, I say it's a near-term solution as you flush it, but longer term, you don't have a problem. The markets are treating this very differently than the way the physical markets are, or the operators are treating it. The financial markets are saying this is a done deal.
All right, so do you guys think that is the case? Is it a done deal? If you look at the current markets of what's going on, you kind of say, well, maybe all of this is being masked by the SpaceX IPO. If you look at where we are right now, 300 bill out of the U.S. stock market today. That, of course, is moving what might be into SpaceX, and I think this is continuing to be an issue right there. If you look at SpaceX up another 10% today, overtaking Amazon to become the 5th largest company in the world, guys. This is insane to see these kind of numbers, and the real question is, how long does it hold? This will correlate to the crypto market because if you look at what's happening after hours on the weekends, right now, hype, of course, soars to all-time high. This, again, because of what's happening over on the SpaceX side and what we'll see on the perp side. But if you look here, the driver on this seems to be SpaceX. NASDAQ closed the after-hours price. Discovery for the year's biggest IPO has now been running on Hyperliquid. So you've got that perp going on, 1.1 billion in volume, and that climbed about 23%. So the new contract on the 3rd biggest market out there in terms of the entire platform, behind only Bitcoin and ETH. So big deal, guys. If it continues to trade like this, if you continue to see this kind of flexibility and volatility, and there could be people starting to short this and getting into that trade as well. Right there, SpaceX, of course, leapfrogging over Microsoft, holding the number 4 position right now. I couldn't say just behind Apple. They're still about half behind Apple. But remember, this opened this week, and it was at less than $2 trillion. So it's almost gained $1 trillion in a week. If it tracks at this level, it literally is on Apple's heels inside a month. So let's see if this continues to hold into SpaceX. The U.S. Department of Justice just did something that might actually help it, and they declared Elon Musk's data centers national security asset and blocked an environmental lawsuit against it. This basically green lights about everything Elon wants to do when it comes to data centers. And imagine what this is going to look like as he starts to move into data centers through SpaceX. In other words, in space, do we get regulatory alignment around that? Or is this now protecting SpaceX from literally any kind of issues coming out of DC in terms of investigations, compliancy, anything like that? If this opens up the pipeline here, we could see an unlimited supply of availability for Elon moving forward. This is another look right here, and this, if you kind of compare this to previous IPOs, these are the 5 most hyped IPOs over the last 15 years. Every single one of them collapsed after listing. Now, the question is how long did it take? Sure, many of them were weeks, sometimes months, but Uber lost 70% of its IPO price. Meta was down 77% from its peak. Robinhood fell 92%. Coinbase was 93%, and even Rivian fell 95%. It's always priced on these early trading frequencies. And remember, this is a little bit different because SpaceX has so much private equity and private capital that's gone into this, which will take profits. They will get out. And exit liquidity, I think, is retail. At the bottom is when nobody wanted these stocks. And that is when everybody started to make money on these things. Robinhood was up 22x from its low. Meta was up 45. Uber was 7. That's when those millionaires were made that were retail millionaires, because now all that liquidity has been flushed out of the market and it's an opportunity to buy it. So if you are looking on the backside of that, let me know what your price is for SpaceX. If you're thinking, I'm going to get into SpaceX, but I'm going to wait for all of this to settle down? Just put your price down in the comments. iShares is getting ready to, or I should say, iShares Bitcoin Premium Income ETF, which is BITA, is now launching tomorrow. Now, this is interesting because this will begin to put a little pressure on the darling of these kinds of assets, and that has been Stretch under MicroStrategy. This, of course, setting in under BlackRock. The question will be is which one would you buy if you were trying to go into these preferred products out there? Would you go into something like BlackRock's offering, or would you continue down the pipe of going with Strategy's offering with Stretch? Or would you jump over to BitMine and what they're doing? Let me know what you guys think. I think this will outpace Stretch. It may cause a little bit of a struggle for Stretch here in the future. I want to go to this last clip because this is an interesting, I won't call it a debate, but it is a different perspective of how markets will react and where Bitcoin and crypto will be, as well as where will gold be. This, of course, is Peter Schiff and Anthony Papagliano. Take a look.
The government is backing Bitcoin. The government is behind Bitcoin. The government is trying to misdirect resources into Bitcoin. The president's family, that's the family business now. Forget real estate. They're all in crypto.
Yeah, well, but hold on a second here. The U.S. government has been backing gold for decades and decades. I don't hear you complaining about that.
Well, second of all, the United States. That's money in the United States.
Hold on a second. Second of all is that the United States has frozen Venezuelans' gold. They've frozen Russia's gold. They've gone after China's gold.
Well, only if they have possession of it.
And again, but you can't do that with an asset that cannot be censored.
What do you mean? Look at all the Bitcoin we've seized. How do you think we have a Bitcoin strategic reserve? It's all to seize Bitcoin. There was just some rumors, I don't know, that we seized Iran's Bitcoin or whatever they had. It's a lot harder to seize gold because if you have your own gold in a vault, unless you're going to send the military on the ground to get it, gold is far more
Let me ask you this. Over the next decade, do you think that Bitcoin or gold is going to outperform each other? If you had to pick between gold and Bitcoin, which one do you think?
I don't even know if Bitcoin is going to be around in another decade.
You want to make a bet on it?
Bet what?
If Bitcoin's going to be around in a decade?
Bet a bar of gold.
Wait, holy, all of a sudden got very quiet.
Everybody wants to bet me. You know, I got.
That's an easy bet. If you think it's going to go away, let's make a little bet.
Well, I can't. It's not going to go to zero, maybe.
Oh, okay. So Bitcoin is not going to zero. We're making progress.
It will underperform gold. I'll make you that.
I don't know. I think I've heard Schiff say that Bitcoin goes to zero before. Interesting. Maybe he's considering his position. Interesting, though, dynamics, because I think right now you are dealing with a new asset generation. And remember, it is a different kind of investor these days. They are looking at not only treasuries differently, they're looking at risk markets differently, and they're definitely looking at precious metals differently. So if you're one of those, which one are you guys jumping into? Love to hear your thoughts. If you like this video, hit like and subscribe, drop a comment down below, and also join our free private member group. The link is in the description.